Today we're going to be looking at yellow box junctions in Stirling City Centre. What you need to remember is the highway code states you can only sit in a yellow box junction if you are turning right and your exit is clear. Both of those conditions must be met to be able to sit in a yellow box junction. If you sit in a yellow box and you're not turning right and your exit isn't clear, so for example you're sitting in a line of traffic and you're sitting in the yellow box, you will not only just fail your driving test, but you could also result in a £70 fine if caught by the police. In this animation, we're following the road ahead of the traffic lights. When moving off, we should leave a big enough gap to be able to assess the situation after the traffic lights rather than just following the flow of traffic. The traffic seems to be slowing down, so there might not be enough room for us to sit after the yellow box junction, so therefore we're going to sit at the white lines at the traffic lights until there's space for us to pass the yellow box junction. Once that gap after the yellow box has been created, we now just need to double check those traffic lights to make sure they're still at go or green before we can get ourselves into that gap safely. Here we are approaching the Thistle Centre. The first yellow box is to keep the left junction clear of any lines of traffic. As we can see, there is space after the yellow box, so we're able to proceed as normal. The second yellow box is at the traffic lights. We're not turning right, so we need to make sure that we have room to fit after the yellow box. We'll slow down and assess before proceeding. We can see a gap, so now we can carry on just as normal. We're now about to pass the bus and rail station. As we move off from these traffic lights, we're going to let the cars in front move off a little bit faster than us, allowing us to create a bigger gap so we can assess the situation better. As we get closer to these traffic lights, we spot yet another yellow box junction. We'll slow down approaching these traffic lights even though they're green, as we must make sure that we can fit in the gap after the yellow box. The traffic in front has stopped moving. We can't see a gap after the yellow box, so we're going to have to sit at the white line at the traffic lights until there is a gap. Even though we're looking out for a gap in front of the yellow box, we must keep an eye out on the traffic lights in front of us. As you can see, they've now changed to red. The gap has now been created after the yellow box. However, our traffic lights are still at red, so we can't move forward. Now our traffic lights are going back to green, the gap is still there after the yellow box, so we can now proceed forward past the yellow box junction. This next animation shows us turning right at the yellow box junction. We're going to move into the yellow box and wait for the oncoming cars to pass and then turn whenever it's safe. We're doing this because the highway code states that we're allowed to sit in the yellow box if we're waiting to turn right and our exit is clear. This time we're going to move over to the right hand lane under the Thistle Centre whenever it's safe. From here we can see the traffic lights are green and my exit is clear. So I'm going to go into the yellow box, and if there's no oncoming cars I can just safely turn into my new road. This time, approaching the yellow box junction under the Thistle Centre, the traffic lights are at red, so we're just going to have to wait at the white line. The traffic lights are now turning to green, but there's oncoming cars, so we're able to move forward into the yellow box junction and sit and wait for the cars to pass. Once the oncoming cars have passed, we have a safe gap for us to turn safely into our new road.